All right. Hey, welcome back to the Go for CEO channel. This is John the Bomb. Building others means business. And you know what? When we bring someone on, we're really looking for someone to add value, right? And to the Go for CEO community, we don't have a lot of authors on, but I'm excited to have one on today. This guy is revolutionizing the way that you really look at FBA and Amazon. And instead of the weirdness about it, this guy's got a real business helping real people. As you can see behind him, Voltage Digital Marketing. He's also a founder of that brand. And right now, if you can go on to voltagedm.com/free book, Neil has been nice enough to be able to give 10 free copies to our community. So if you go on voltagedm.com/free book and put the code word GO for CEO, get your book and start learning about FBA. So Neil, thanks so much for coming on the Go for CEO channel.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you for having me on here, sir.
Awesome, brother. Awesome, brother. Well, we were talking a little bit about some things offline and just mindset and things that are happening in the marketing world and the things that are being shared out there. A lot of fluff, a lot of things that maybe don't hit home and
Yeah, a lot
kind
of
of get
hopium mindset marketing is what I refer to it as. Yeah.
yeah, they're getting lost in this wilderness of the internet, right? So
Yeah, yeah. Well, everybody, I mean, the internet is what it is these days. You could be the queen of England online, if you want. So, yeah,
yeah, it's
try to
so
keep it
excited to
real.
have you on.
Mhm.
Share with us a little bit of the beginning parts, right? Of Voltage and how you got into FBA and these
Sure.
aspects of the business.
Well, I've been, interested in business of some kind on the entrepreneurial side since I was young. I ended up going to college because it was kind of my fallback plan. I didn't really want to go there, and I had enough skills in music and had some work study to kind of make up the balance of the cost of school. So I went there. I actually planned on being a fighter pilot and failed out of that because I was too tall to be in the cockpit, so I couldn't fit. And I was like, well, crap. Now I'm going to college, I guess. So that really was a fallback plan. I didn't want to be there, but the internet came online and saved me. So with the internet coming online, I thought, okay, I really want to do business in the internet world somehow. And through a series of bumps and ups and downs, I ended up inside of Sprint when they were launching the first mobile phones into the market. I got badged in as like the 5,000th employee, 5,082 if I'm not mistaken. By the time I left to go to IBM, they hired me out of Sprint because of what we were doing in that business. There's 80,000 employees in Sprint, so I got to watch the inside of that hypergrowth situation occur, which is fascinating. But that led me to doing similar types of business, knowledge management organization, machine language learning, and latent semantic search engines, basically, because that was a big thing coming onto the internet. And I was doing that inside of IBM until I left and fired the man in 2007. So, okay, I'm done with all this. I didn't want to be here anyways. I want to do my own thing. And 2007 came around. It was an opportunity to do that. So I jumped through a series of other fun things, pivoting like 20 times. I ended up in e-commerce, not just the digital marketing side of it, but really the physical and private label product side. So we do private label brands and physical products, which can kind of combines the holistic model of the digital and physical world into an e-commerce brand. And landed on Amazon FBA around 2012 when I was trying to discover how to move those physical products to people and didn't want a warehouse and that kind of nonsense. And so I found their infrastructure to be extremely helpful because I didn't have to pack and ship the products. Someone else did it for me, which is really cool about the FBA system that Amazon has. It's fulfilled by Amazon. They're just a giant third-party logistics company. Actually, Amazon bought them. Most people don't know that, but they bought this logistics company and turned it into the sixth largest logistics company in the world now, with
Wow.
planes and trains and ships and automobiles and all that stuff. Most of you probably know it because they deliver stuff to your house. What you don't know is that a lot of those products, over 60% of them, are sold by people like me, by third-party sellers. So it really is an interesting business model that has allowed a lot of individuals and small SMB people, even large corporations, to get access to a big audience, over 200 million Prime subscribers. And we just took it for a ride. We finally got to our first seven-figure brand almost 3.5 years after we started launching products and kind of testing the market. And we have just been launching and growing across multiple channels since then. As an incubator of products and brands from the beginning, we help create opportunities for aspiring entrepreneurs or existing entrepreneurs to go for growth and scale. Our model is an exit model, so we call it the platinum principle. That is building with the end in mind, because these businesses are worth more in the end than at any time during the business building phase. While you can create great money and cash flow, it's really that exit opportunity you should be considering. And that's part of what we call our platinum principle. And so we really build from the beginning to the end. And now we're even in acquisition stage. So I've kind of gone through to borrow the Kiyosaki quadrants, I've kind of gone through all those quadrants. And now we're into business investing, which is the acquisition of companies through a partnership called Patriot Growth Capital. So Voltage is involved in a mission as a business. It's for supporting and helping veterans. Veterans from the military get an opportunity to create, jobs, upside potential for family and generational time and wealth opportunities. Because in 4 and 5 years, we're able to sell the business back to them as part of our goal, so they can become the business owner after we've trained them up with as many hours as it takes to get them into the top positions of the company, maybe even the CEO role. So now we have kind of that as a mission. So as we run our own brands and grow these companies and we exit them, we're also acquiring them.
Interesting. You talked about the word pivot. Being
Yep.
a corporate guy, being someone that learned systems, processes, SOPs, and dynamic areas, like you said, machine learning, which is a big deal nowadays. Um, you know, when you made that move,
Hmm.
that pivot is not easy. Did you
No.
get a chance to, in our community's learning curve, what was that pivotal point? And did you research five, six, seven franchises? Did you look at different areas, or how did that work?
So, quick history here to get that answer. My dad is a hardworking guy. He's 83, turned 83 last week. He spent 30 years in the same job. He was a mechanic. He was a hardworking guy, a Vietnam vet, 2 tours in the Navy, and just, knew how to work and get things done, but really didn't have a higher education of any kind. So, we did okay, but we were not, we were above poverty, but we weren't much beyond that. So in our house, money was a four-letter word. We just didn't talk about it because any talking about needs and wants above what you had was considered disrespectful to dad. So we didn't talk about it, right? We were happy with what we got. We got what we got, and we didn't throw a fit, or we get what we get, and we didn't throw a fit. Is kind of what we say in our house too. But the end result was I had to learn to adapt and grow and do the things that I wanted to do. So by the time I got through the corporate side and realized that, I never wanted to be there anyways, I just needed it to get through the experience. I needed it to get to maturity. I needed all the systems and people and technology to sort of catch up with where the internet was going, because it was happening so fast that when I realized it was time to go, this is around 2005, 2006, and I was kind of thinking in my mind, how would I do that? And I had a couple of little side hustles. One of them was a game server company where I developed a little codec, a speech codec, an audio codec that was allowing multiplayers to have a gaming platform to talk to each other while playing video games because they weren't embedded in the games at that point, right? So I had servers running in Texas and thousands of people using that software. And I thought, okay, this might be a way for me to get out of the, enterprise. Unfortunately, I had a mentor, my uncle, who was kind of my rich dad. He was somebody of business and entrepreneurialism, and he had a family that sort of thought that way, and he was building up a boat company in San Diego. And so for him, in my conversations, the chance that I got to speak with him as much as I could, he taught me a lot more about abundance and mindset and business building and the finances and how to connect. And it's who you know that gets you there and what you know that keeps you there. And I was on that path myself just by my own experiences. And so it really resonated with me. Unfortunately, he died in 2005 in an ultralight aircraft incident and died early, and as far as I'm concerned. And that kind of set me off to the idea that, hey, I needed to get this done. Like, he was giving me all these ideas. He was suggesting franchises. He was suggesting get something, go do something. You'll figure it out as you go. About 2007 is when I finally pulled the trigger. It was an opportunity in a crossroad that the company was making a decisional path and said, hey, you can go over here and do this kind of work, or you can go off to Argentina and do this kind of work, or hey, if you want, we'll give you early retirement because you've done a great job. Was like, well, great. So I decided to go ahead and take the early retirement in June of 2007. I had just gotten married in March of 2007. So everybody's like, hey, what's the perfect time to leave your job? Never. There's never a perfect time. There's never a perfect path. There's never a perfect roadmap. If you start a franchise, your own business, if you go into consulting, if you start an e-commerce company, it's something is going to fail along the way, and you're just going to have to like pivot through the different things that you figure out and just keep going, follow the trail until you start to discover through your entrepreneurial journey. When everybody says they're an entrepreneur, I laugh at that, John, because it tells me that there's one level of business acumen, and then another level of business acumen says I'm a business owner, and this is what I focus on. And then there's like, well, I'm a business investor, and this is the only place that I invest in. So there are different levels of understanding and language with folks when you kind of level up the conversation. And as you go through those quadrants, I've had learned to pivot through the learning, the money raises, the failures, the bankruptcy, the huge upside potentials, and the big failures. And I've kind of gone through them all. And with that, I got to the point where I really wasn't afraid to try anything. And with that opportunity, I just kind of kept following the path. I got to affiliate marketing, which led me to digital marketing, which led me to, making really great lead gen campaigns and stuff. I had 10 people working under me at one point and ended up firing them all because I didn't need them anymore. I was making more money over here than I needed all 10, and I didn't want the staffing problem. So I got rid of them. But really, at the end of the day, when I left, one of the things you should understand about this, if you're listening and you're thinking, should I jump out of my corporate career or whatever, burn the boats and not the bridges, right? In other words, leave and go with no expectation that you're coming back, but don't burn the bridges, right? You never know when that's going to lead you to an opportunity. Relationships and the relationship driven business only becomes more important the higher you go in business. It's a lot less about the business itself, and it's a lot more about the network and the relationships and the ability to connect your business to other businesses or other people or other consumers or other sales channels. It's more important actually than what you started selling that is now growing in the marketplace and taking over market share.
Yeah, that is a lot of wisdom in there, a lot of ups and downs, and the word pivot becomes so critical for all of us, right? When you
Yes.
didn't know, I always try to share with my friends, hey guys, some of you guys that are engineers, you knew that you want to be an engineer and you went to school for that, and that's kind of what you wanted to do. And my oldest daughter right now is thinking about architecture. She's really good with Legos. She could take a million pieces and construct something. It's pretty crazy to me. And I don't have that type of mind. But when you're in sales or you're just entrepreneurial, even though I know it's
I know I'm picking on some people. I don't want to hurt any feelings, but
but yeah, but like think about business or think about all that stuff. So it's really interesting. So help me understand, the first 18, 20 months, you get married. Sounds like my story. I sold my business in January of '09 and I got married in March of '09.
yeah,
And
that's a lot.
my wife's like, okay, I married you and now you sold, what's going on?
Well, we're poor together. That's how we saw it. Like we're okay, we're poor together. Let's figure it
Yeah.
out. She had
Yeah.
just graduated and was trying to figure out her career too on our end. And it's like, well, we're figuring it out. Let's figure it out. You know,
Yeah, it's interesting. And thankfully I had a few round zeros in the bank account, but it was interesting time as well, right?
yeah.
So help us understand. A lot of people, take a look at authors and obviously the Voltage digital marketing side of things that you built as well. They take a look at where's their knowledge coming from? How did they build something? So tell us a little bit about the book that you've written, how you're correlating that into the business that you have, and then even Voltage, when that's kind of started as well.
Yeah, when the concept of the book came forward, the question that came in mind is how do I extol the strategy of the business of e-commerce that can allow someone to digest and see the opportunity. And if somebody has no experience, how can they understand the strategy of e-commerce first before they understand the tactics? Because everybody wants to dive straight into the tactical things. Well, what do I do? How many hours does it take? What buttons do I push? We're so mechanical in nature because of our history and experience and just jobs or work or life, etc. But in actuality, it's the strategy that makes you the money, and it's the execution that keeps the money flowing. So at the end of that, I've taught 19-year-old high school dropouts and 16-year-olds how to build businesses with pushing buttons that, that once they learn the strategy, they push the buttons. Anybody can kind of push the buttons. The real acumen for the business side of building a business is understanding where you're going and how you're going to get there, and then how you get there or how you multiply force or force multiplication of yourself through other people who can handle other tactical aspects of the business so you don't have to. Pivoting for me was not a failure, and most people will see it as a failure, and they always are worried about failing. If you're worried about failing, don't start a business ever. Okay,
Yeah.
don't start any kind of business. If failure or guarantees of the risk aspect of failure from your time or money or your attention is part of that, do not start a business. Okay, what you're going to find is that you don't have the aptitude to overcome the challenges that a business is going to give you. Is the reward greater than working for a company that you don't own? Absolutely. The reward is 1,000 times greater. We sort of understand that because that's all everybody talks about. It's the big hopium thing, right? That's great. We get it. There's a heaven island. Let's set that aside for a second. Because some of you are in hell or you're thinking about getting on the boat and you're trying to cross the water and there's sharks everywhere. And you're like, well, how do I get from here to there across the sharks over to my, heaven island? And the end of it is you're going to pivot your way through failures. You're going to fail forward. You're going to continue to pivot and pivot through things. And what I discovered eventually is that while I was pivoting so wide, it was a little amateur in my knowledge of business and experience to pivot so greatly from one area to a whole nother area of focus so dramatically. And until I had something set up that I was doing, I'm confident I can do, and I can split out mind, time, energy, attention, and money into that new team effort, then I shouldn't be doing it. So the phrase, invest in yourself, invest in your knowing, or invest in what you know comes to this, conclusion here, and that is you need to invest in the time and energy required to do something new, or go invest in the things that you know. Once you discover what it is you know, stay there. Continue to pivot only in that area. Do what Jim Collins said in Good to Great and become a hedgehog. From that perspective, you now become a business owner who is identifying multiple streams of revenue inside the area in which you're pivoting. And for me, that became e-commerce because I could flow through the marketing and product and development and new product launches and the system and the logistics and the business of it across multiple channels, and then just keep doing that again with new products, new ideas, and new brands. So I could keep pivoting through products and ideas and brands while staying in the vertical of e-commerce, as opposed to jumping all the way out to something like real estate or somewhere off in nowhere land. Now, real estate, and for those who were thinking about it, like we create a virtual real estate in the online world. So I have a lot of real estate friends that end up becoming very successful at e-commerce because they see the limitations of real estate in the world they're in now, and they realize that a virtual real estate platform, like a digital platform, has unlimited upside potential in what you can put in it. There's no barrier to getting into millions of product ideas or millions of dollars. There's just virtual real estate, and you can claim your online space with your brand and your IP, and you can do that multiple times. We have like 38 brands that we control inside Voltage. So with that, you can just keep creating and going, and my ADHD brain and my need to keep pushing and my willingness to jump off a cliff and figure it out on the way down fits really great in the e-commerce world. And some of you might resonate with that. Some of you might understand that. I get there's a process, there's a daily, weekly, monthly process that has to be done. But overarching, if I understand the path, I understand where I'm going, I see my 2, 3, 4 year plan, I know that I can become successful in something if I can just follow a path, follow a playbook, follow somebody else who's already walked it. That for me became the most successful aspect of doing any of these business models. And it took many failures. I got a room of failures I'm setting in here, that many would just look at as complete failures. I look at them as just pivots and failing forward through different things. Even now, a product might not go as well as we think it's going to go. Some people would say, oh, that's a complete failure. I'd say, no, it's a great learning lesson as to which product we do next. We're just going to move over 2 millimeters to the right, and we're going to find out, was this one slightly better than the one that didn't do as well as we thought? And then we just keep shifting that. And so behind me now, I've got an amazing team of people. I'm not alone in this, who are right behind me. I have a partner of over 12 years. He's much more operationally focused. The book talks about the strategies of all of these things I'm talking to you about right now. And it was put in such a format where you could listen to different experts speak about the different verticals in which they're an expert, but it's all tied to e-commerce. Okay, from the financing to the product research to the infrastructure to the thought processes to the overarching strategy of an omni-channel, multi-channel e-commerce business. I tied that into the chapters and interviewed individuals in my podcast, the High Voltage Business Builders podcast, and then placed those in the book. And there's case studies and resources that support every area of that strategy. So I built that into the book so that hopefully it will translate backwards to people who are wanting to learn, if they're aspiring entrepreneurs, about what it takes to become a business owner in the e-com world.
And I'll say, at the beginning of the video, we talked about the free book that Neil is offering, and I'll repeat that. It's voltagedm.com/free book. And the code word is Go for CEO. So Go for CEO community, get on it right now. Go get that stuff. And
have a copy. Take a read. You might like it.
That's right. That's right. So, well, look, you mentioned earlier, and we hit so many topics on the Go for CEO channel because the journey of business ownership is vast, right?
Yep.
It's a lot of opportunity to really, like you said, pivot, grow, learn, adjust, tweak, move, all that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
I caught something earlier. You had up to 10 employees in one of the first facets and evolutions of your business. And you said, get rid of these,
Yep.
people in a nice way, right? But then you saw a way that you could grow, basically from the things that you learned. Now you just mentioned you have a partner and some things and the team behind you. Have you pivoted to more of an independent contractor, type of model, or are you bringing on W-2 employees again and relearning that side of the world?
No W-2 employees.
Okay.
I swore off that earlier. With systems of automation now and infrastructure and logistics and so many things that are out there, I don't need a warehouse full of people. I don't need employees anymore. So what I did and what my partner did is we actually trained people up to become CEO operators. And as we got them successful in their businesses, understanding the methodologies that we deployed and working with them one-on-one and helping them be successful in their businesses. We then offer them opportunities to partner with us, partner in a profit sharing model, partner in an actual business, or even partner in the acquisition of a company together, by which we can run and operate these companies. So behind me, I have operators who are running existing companies who are now helping us run partnerships, are in partnership with us, or we're acquiring companies. We're looking to bring them into those partnerships to help us run those companies. So they are worth 100 times a W-2 employee because they're self-independent, they run their own businesses, and they run them based on the models and methodologies that we taught them to. So it's very easy for us to translate that into successful business together. So I didn't end up with employees anymore. I have, yeah, hired mercenaries basically, but they're running their own companies and they're extremely good at it.
Awesome. Well, look, you've described a few different business models. Let's get into the actual revenue, right?
Yeah,
So when you think about, setting up the FBA, right? You guys are, like you said, maybe A/B testing some products and looking
correct.
at ways that how that can generate some cash flow and sales in the marketplace. Tell us how you're actually generating revenue. So is it one level? Could it be the products? The other one is selling your book. The other one is coaching and mentoring and partnering and JVing with people, stuff like that. How is the revenue of the whole
Yes,
hierarchy set
yes.
up?
So as I mentioned in our call, we have about 35, 38 brands under our control at various levels of growth, startup, stage, launch, and into scaling. Those are brands we control and operate in Voltage. Okay. Then we also have client brands that we're supporting one-on-one. They own 100% of their company, and we're helping them raise them up and train them as CEO operators for the reasons I mentioned earlier. Then we have private equity through a company called Patriot Growth Capital that we help form and are partners in, and that is the acquisition of companies between 5 and 20 million plus in revenues, and then we are operators of that company. So we have a say in its growth, we have a say in its upside potential. We make money from the front end, the middle end, and the back end of that business growth as our operators and partners in those companies, with an exit strategy in 5 years to take them through a capital gains tax-free exit. So with that, we then make money through that channel. So we have multiple ways. We have a SaaS software as well that has been in beta for a while. We're about to release it to the Amazon market because what we have become in the last 5 years, as we've translated with technologies and changed our business a bit and elevated our product brand pricing in the marketplaces and elevated our brands coming off of anything less than $50. We now do everything $50 to $500 in retail price point in all of our brands, which we obviously make money through multiple channels, Amazon FBA being one of them. We take that business back and then we obviously translate that into a 3 and 4 and 5 year exit, where money is also made on the back end. Everybody who works with us has an opportunity to become a first rights of refusal opportunity. As the business gets to maturity, we ask them to come to us first and say, hey, is this something we can buy? So as we raise these companies up, we look to acquire our client companies as well. So there's about 7 or 8 revenue streams inside of Voltage through the holdings company. We have investment strategies as well. I'm hoping will pan out well. We're investing in some new technologies that are not within our infrastructure, but we're taking out profits and investing in other areas. I've even got crypto holdings and other things that we invest our capital into to kind of diversify risk across multiple channels and revenues. And by the way, the SaaS is going to go live this year. We're about to launch it into mainstream, and hopefully that will turn into another greater revenue stream than just internally, where we've kept it behind an NDA for a while. We're going to release it because we're data brokers. So what we learned is to broker data to an AI engine that now has the capability to deliver it last mile to the customer without our help, all the way through that very large engine. So it basically delivers the products, handles the customer support, and handles the last mile and does all that. So what we've become focused on is the data. So when I say we're a physical products company, technically what we are is a data brokering AI engine analytics company who then sells physical products to complete the monetary transaction requirement of an e-commerce company. The product fulfills the requirement. So we create great products, but really it gets down to the data. And this is where most people have it backwards. They think a lot about the products, probably a Shark Tank thing, or maybe, a scene on TV, or, if you build it, they will come kind of thing. And they see so much of that idea that I need a really, unique product. At the end of the day, we just innovate products in the market because that's 99% of the opportunity is innovations of products that exist. And we simply make them a little better and we sell our version in our IP. And they're great products. So with that, we have the opportunity to grow, a business across multiple channels and revenue streams and opportunity with great upside potential that doesn't create 2 and 3 years of R&D. We can be in the market into year 1 build. We can then go into growth year 2. We can go into scale in years 3 through 5. which creates a huge upside potential for fast revenues for these businesses. We have a minimum, goal of 7 figures in our company within 3 to 4 years or less, and that's every product and data set that we align with backs into that goal of going out in 3 to 4 years and accomplishing that. And it is all data and analytics driven now.
Hmm. It's interesting. You know, from a commercial banker hat, I've been wondering as you're talking, it's interesting that you put this model together where you're helping people work with you. I'm assuming there is some sort of commitment, obviously monetarily, that they put up front or what have
Correct.
you. And then do they share in equity up front, or do they look to then become an equity partner within that 3 to 5 year space?
They look to become an equity partner. When they come to work with us initially, they're 100% owners. They're deploying capital into their business and product lines. We're simply guiding them through a process of getting them to an expected outcome, which is 100K in net profits within 12 months after they launch their products. I have a performance bonus of a $10,000 guarantee that says that you don't pay $10,000 of our fees if you don't hit that 100K in net profits. So we have a time frame and a monetary goal we set with the objective of trying to keep the operator on focus so they become skilled at launching the business and growing it and turning it into a profitable going concern. The same way that I would want if I brought a W-2 employee in and said, okay, here's your business, here's your objective, here's your key results, here's your goal. What I'm really looking for is those who have the greatest aptitude to accept the business, grow the business, and then become great operators independently, and then offer them the opportunity to partner with us and only partner with the best aptitudes and best executors in the marketplace who know that they have the skill sets and knowledge to do it now. And so we have opportunities for what we call voltage product partnerships in our enterprise where we ask them, hey, for those who might want to become product partners, you can apply, and then we can see if it's a good fit.
When you say the brands, just to give a little education to the
Yeah.
community, you know, are you talking about the brand, the company, or the brand, the product within that model, let's say of the 35 brands?
Yeah, so the company could be named XYZ Corp, right? But the actual brand is going to have a name on it, like AirTough or something. And that brand becomes the household name. That's the Nike, the Pepsi, the Coke, whatever. That becomes a
And the
component of
product that flows through that.
activity of the product to the market. And we try to name them in such a way where there's an affinity level. So if we're going to sell shoes, we don't go shoe Acme company. Like we'll come up with a specific affinity. We're driving a brand name that no one's ever heard of. We're starting and incubating on the Amazon brand channel first because it has the brand authority last mile. Most everybody trusts it now, like they used to trust the yellow pages, right? And so we are going out and there's demand on that platform as a demand capture platform. It captures demand from all the other segments, including television now. So with that, we then get into a vertical of proving and incubating on the channel that has 49% of e-commerce sales in the United States, and prove that brand can sell at that product. And we have a 5x5 product methodology. We launch 5 products, averaging 5 sales a day or 25 sales as a goal. And from there, organically seeing how much of the market share we can capture on Amazon into what growth trajectory we can get it to, and then we'll move it into multiple other channels, direct to consumer, retail, Shopify, Walmart, whatever other channel we can put it into.
Hmm. No, that's amazing. You know, I'm sure there's such a desire to learn that, right? And like you said at the beginning of the podcast, you know, people don't realize that Jeff Bezos created a monster, but it's a monster, you know, deployed with help of 60%, you called it, of
Yeah, 60% of the sellers on Amazon are third-party sellers like us.
that's not
What most
Amazon.
people don't understand though is they typically want to sell the sub 20, sub $30 products. We say, friends don't let friends sell $20 products on Amazon. It's not profitable anymore. $30 products will barely be profitable until you get to 50 and retail price point or above. Do you not actually hit profit margins in our data set that are part of what we call our green light process, green, yellow, and red. The data sets have been defined by 12 years of selling multiple 8 figures across multiple brands, and the data set just works every time. It literally gets people to finally realize that they can sell anything in a box to anybody once they understand the data that's required, the customer need. And so much as this has changed now with AI-driven analytics, systems like Amazon having AI, TikTok has AI, these all have AI now, and they're looking for key indicators of need and demand and intent for demand of those products. There are certain places in Amazon's big filing system, its big digital warehouse, if you will, where those products live and have to live in order to be met correctly by the engine's ability to put a product in front of someone. And then you have to actually put a good product in there so you get a good review. You don't want to put a crappy product in the system because you don't want bad reviews. If you do a great job selling and do a horrible job with your reviews, the whole thing crashes. Or if you spend 2 years doing R&D on a super awesome product, get it patented, and have no experience on how to sell it whatsoever, then the market will never see that amazing product. And I've seen both of those things, and I've been on both sides of those things. So the balance is really in the middle. But I would also lean it much heavier on the sales side because you could fix a product that has problems, but it's very hard to fix the marketing if you never figure out how to dial in the conversation and figure out where the product is. So we literally take the data segment right down, no emotions. This is what's selling, and this is how selling so much. In our data analytics, we found literally what are the top 103,002 needs that power all of Amazon. It's the only data set I've seen, and I've been all the groups and all the systems and all the softwares, and I've done this for more than 12 years. No one else has this data set, and we're going to release it to the market. And what it's going to show to people is these are the places that make up 90% of all of Amazon's revenue. So if you don't put one of these products in the marketplace, it's most likely why 75% of all Amazon sellers fail at launching a successful concern. And why I have a lot of very great case studies with very high sales because I can get 5 and 10 product reviews on a product that's doing, 4 and 5 figures a day.
Hmm. So question to you, with this launch that you have on this data set,
Yep.
what makes you feel, I guess, instead of keeping it within the community that you've built that's so strong, why are you deploying it to the masses?
Huge market opportunity, right? So I see the larger guys in our market sphere that have not pivoted to this. They're still on search terms and they're still in the old school model of Amazon, which changed 5 years ago, and they're still selling people into that model, like homepium dealers and fake wares and all this crap about buy a course and then teaching you how to flip products on Amazon, which is outside of their terms of service. And here's my $3,000 course and go shop your way to wealth on whatever and arbitrage these products. And Amazon's shutting them down like overnight. And of course, that hits the internet and there's more people doing it. So it becomes a bigger, like, marketplace conversation you hear. It's because so many people are getting shut down trying all these models that fail. The only model that ultimately works is a private label business model in which you own the IP, you own the intrinsic property, the intellectual property, you own the value of the brand and control it across multiple marketplaces, and you own the supply chain for the actual products that are being manufactured and customized for you. If you don't have that, you don't have a real business. You have a side hustle or a hobby business. Okay, we're talking about real business building with growth, multi-channel and upside potential. And one of those things you've got to look for is the realization that it's not for everybody because it is more of a capital intensive business model, an inventory based business model. For those who have the capital, there's a lot of upside potential for entering the market with a barrier of entry that most people can't get into, and then deploying the capital necessary to actually see it really go and go fast. We deploy 50 to 100,000 or more in year one into each of our brands. We do that because we know that the market share is there. We know the upside potential is there. We know the data proves it's there. And so we're going to go after it. And there's so much data, so much product, so much change with this AI moving so fast that I have no problem releasing this data now because I'm ahead of the curve. I'm ahead of all of those other engines that haven't changed, all those other big boys that haven't pivoted. I'm in the speedboat and they're in the Titanic, and we're going to turn into a destroyer before they even know we're there. We're going to go through and pull all their people out of the market once they realize where the actual data lives for the opportunity. And I'm going to present that to the market.
I like it. I like it. No, hey, there's innovation in that. And
That's right.
hey, look, business is a dog eat dog world.
It
It's
is. It
competitive.
absolutely is.
It's people don't realize, there are some advantages of working at enterprise and the cushiness of it, but the killer of greatness is comfort, right?
Risk and reward ratio. We talk about this a lot, right? What's your risk to reward? I discovered my risk ratio is much higher than other people's. I have a threshold for risk that is simply greater. It's a
Yeah.
natural effect of who I am. It's a conditioning of change. It's a conditioning of a poor financial environment in the past. I don't know. You could come up with it's just school of hard knocks. You can't go learn this from an MBA in a career. You can't learn it for somebody who's teaching it in a business class on a 4 year education and expect to keep up at the market 4 years later. We've passed you 10 times over by then, and you're not hireable. So you have to get in and actually start doing these things for yourself. You have to figure out where your aptitude fits. If you're a podcasting influencer style person who's more about speaking and engagement and you want to talk about yourself more and woohoo, then go do all that, but don't be an e-commerce. If you're an operational, if you have an engineering brain, if you have a tactical brain, if you have a go-getter brain, if you're on the disc profile side of more of an S or C, stable or conscientious, which is also what's the word? Another C. Not just conscientious, but I was about to say complacent, but that's totally not the right word. Competent individual who knows that if I follow a process daily, weekly, and monthly, I've been very good at that in other ways. If I can just follow a daily, weekly, month process that shows me where the steps are and how to do it, I can do well. And I like that. And I don't want to be in the public square, and I don't want to be on the videos, twerking on TikTok, and I don't want to do all that crap. Then an e-commerce company can be really great for you because everything you do is behind the scenes and the brand goes forward ahead of you. And you may answer a few customer support, but you don't have to do the rest of those things. And if that's where your game is and you like that, then e-commerce is going to be for you because it's more analytical. It has you got to have a little bit of computer skills. You don't have to be a rocket science, but you have to understand spreadsheets and you have to be willing to learn the fundamentals of business first so you can understand how to run a company, right? If you know anything about businesses, you can go grok this or Google it, but right, you will see that 92% of all businesses fail in years 4 through 5. Do you know why that is? Right. Why do only 8% succeed? Because they actually know how to run a business, because they actually took the time to learn the fundamentals of operating an actual business. They understand what a private label is, or a P&L, or a service-based business looks like. They understand how they're making their money, who their customers are. They understand accrual versus cash accounting. They understand how to save taxes and deploy more capital. They even have, in some ways, imperfect abilities to manage people. But, they're not even perfect at that, right? Because really what they're good at is just executing. When others think about doing it, they've actually done it. When you're still wondering, can I do it on this call? I'm launching another brand today. And see, you're not keeping up. If you're going to compete in the marketplace, you're going to have to keep up. And we have a saying in our company, right? Imperfect action is better than no action whatsoever, and something perfect will happen along the way. So you're going to have to realize you will fail through every step. If you start your first product, you might fail at it. Go for the second one. That might do better. Go for the third one. You might hit a ringer. You might find by your fourth or fifth product, you actually got it figured out and you're scaling the business you always wanted. If you do it at the first or second product, you will fail. If you do it at the first or second service, you will fail. If you do it at the first or second attempt, you will fail. No one hits a perfect home run at their first at bat. That is just practical knowledge and understanding that maybe nobody else is willing to tell you because they want to sell you a course. All I want you to do is get an opportunity. That's what this whole conversation is about. Take the opportunity to fail up. That's it.
So a funny thought came into my mind. I'm a Chicago Cubs fan, and there's a rookie that came into the Cubs named Jerome Walton.
Yeah.
And his first two at bats were home runs ever in the major leagues.
The unicorn. It
And,
happens. Unicorns happen. They're real.
and then 2 years later, you never heard from the guy again.
No,
So.
there's one hit wonders. Remember Manila Vanilla or
Really
whatever?
vanilla.
Yeah, Manila Vanilla.
Yeah.
Those guys are awesome. Who remembers them, right? There's so many one hit wonders, right? The Cranberries and other bands. There's like all of these people and things that you realize they don't last because they get a one hit wonder. Why? Because they simply did not have that. They had a one moment in time, and I don't want anybody to have a one moment in time. You can have multiple moments in time. You just will have to pivot past all the mistakes and failures and fail forward and just keep going until you figure it out. Literally.
Well, there's a sense with the internet that started to be created where it's overnight success, and the best overnight successes are 10 to 20 years in the making, right?
18 years to an overnight success, right? And that's just on my own. That's not including the corporate years or the years as a kid where I screwed up in my 20s and basically, did a bunch of dumb stuff. It takes a while to master and perfect everything. 18 minutes a day, they say, for a year, and you can master something, right? 1 to 2 hours a day, and you'll be extremely proficient in half of that time. And that's all I ask people to consider. 1 to 2 hours a day of intent activity every day on this business model. And in 6 and 7 and 8 months, you'll wake up with not only a going concern driving revenue, but you'll know exactly how to build it and grow it and scale it in year 2 and 3 and 4, and be able to be practical and wise about how to use and deploy that money and how to build market share and grab it and how to make it a successful 8% that goes past years 5.
Yeah.
Be the 8%. I'm going to write that down. Be the 8%.
Sometimes ideas just pop, right?
Well,
So
it just come out of the conversation naturally.
no, for sure. I mean, and this is part of, podcasting, right? And the knowledge that's out there can be overwhelming, right?
It
Because
can be
like you
100%.
said, there might be another 10 voltage digital marketing companies, another 100 FBA guys and all that stuff. But, when you find someone genuinely that you connect to, right? And you assess where you're at, and then you align yourself with, Voltage and what your brand and Neil, what you've done, that can become super successful. So,
Well, and always do your due diligence. Do look on the web to, do what you can do practically to figure out what you can figure out. And then you're just going to have to do a leap of faith. I did it, right? Buying marketing, programs online once upon a time, trying to figure out how to do certain things. Turns out one of the first marketing campaign advertisement things on Google I bought for keyword marketing was a guy named Onyx Singal. Fast forward, he's a good friend of mine. We text all the time. But I didn't know him when I started 18 years ago. He was just a marketing guy I found online. And over time, we eventually became connected and got into networks and found out who each other was. But that's kind of how it will work with any business model. As you dig in and get deeper, you will know more, you'll advance more, you'll understand more. Just know that you need to triple the time you think it's going to take you to do it. You're going to need to quadruple the amount of money you think it's going to take to do it. And you're going to go through at least 2 or 3 people or more to help you along the way until you discover the similarities of a conversation across them will be the same in some. Some will be extremely different because maybe they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Others will continue to resonate with you until you realize that there's a combination of knowledge and, transitory knowledge that's becoming implicit in your mind as you step through the process of learning. I always remind people there's, again, unicorns get on a bike and ride it the first time. That's my 4-year-old, my fourth daughter, actually, who is turning 12 in April. I have 4 daughters in my house, 5 women. It's a fun household. But the first two were had to figure it out. Like they really didn't want to do it as much. They got a little better by the second, but the fourth one was watching the first 3 do it. And by the time she was ready to go, she jumps on, and by the second time on, she's riding the bike. Why? Because she watched the first 3 fail over it, complain. I yelled at them. We're like, no, you're not giving up. Why? Because no one gets on a bike and rides it without training wheels. Like less than 1% do that. So why would you expect to go into a business expecting you're going to hit a home run 7-figure business on your first try? That is not practical wisdom. It is not good knowledge. Do not take that away from this call today. Okay. What you need to take away from this call today is you will try things. You're going to fail up through them. You're going to keep going. You're going to get on the bike again until eventually you feel comfortable taking the training wheels off. And everybody is different when they take their training wheels off. Okay. But when you do, you will know how to ride the bike and get on it again and get on it again. Pretty soon you'll teach somebody else how to ride the bike. And that's an important aspect of any business is turning around and helping up the next person behind you. Okay. You will learn something from them. You will gain knowledge and network from them. And you never know what that can turn into in life.
that's sage advice, my friend. Sage advice. Well, look, it's been a great, great podcast. Go for SEO community. If you've just listened even to 5 minutes what Neil has shared today, I think you'll pull out some incredible knowledge. Go ahead and get his book at voltagedm.com/free book, and then put go for CEO, GO, the number 4 CEO as a code. And Neil has so graciously offered 10 free books to our listeners. So, and then go ahead and investigate his way of doing business. Do business with Neil. Connect with him. Neil, we have a CEO mindset to right around here in the Go for CEO community. And the last 3 questions that we usually ask our interviewees are C, E, and O. So C is client experience, E for engagement, and O is for operational excellence. So let's start with the first one, 30, 60 seconds, kind of a value add proposition of why people should do business with Voltage, why they should do business with Neil. In client experience, what is that going to look like for someone that gets into your ecosystem?
Well, look, at the end of the day, we're building physical private businesses, physical private label businesses. Okay. We're inventory driven for many reasons because it fulfills a contractual obligation between us and the client, but it's also inventory. Inventory can be written off. There's a lot of things you can do with inventory in a value-based model. It's also stuff that helps with inflation. Physical products, second, longest professional history in the world is selling products. When the market changes, you adapt, products change, services change, and real estate and other things change, but physical products have been there and will always be there in some capacity. So it is definitely a hedge against inflation and opportunities to create, in my experience, generational wealth and freedom. For clients that work with us, we do it over 12 months. We do it one-on-one. We ensure that you build a business to a going concern that will profit, create growth and scale so that we can come back and say, hey, there's a business we want to acquire. My goal is to acquire that business from you. So I want to see you do it right from the very beginning so that you have a going, saleable asset in the end.
It's very noticeable that you have had 10,000 hours. You're very, very good at what you do. So Love the client experience that you just detailed. It was very poignant and had some steps in there so that when people see what the client experience, they could feel it as well. So E is engagement. Neil, you mentioned in the beginning, obviously you had 10 employees, W-2. You've kind of
Mhm.
squashed that business model. You've actually grown 10 or 100 times bigger than that because of the way that you now put your business model and scale together. But
Mhm.
what's the way that you engage? How do you get people to really kind of connect with you from an E engagement standpoint?
If you, here's the three things, right? Know, like, and trust. Something today you should know about me that you didn't know before, and it's something that you should hopefully like, either the language, the framework, or even the way I run my house or the way I do my life. I live on 50 acres in the country. We homeschool our daughters. I'm very conservative in nature. I'm sort of a salmon against the upstream world. We took them and kind of built a home ecosystem to launch them out of that gives them the opportunity to build their own business, do their own thing, follow along with dad. So at the end, I really do what I say I do. I live the way I live. My life is a lifestyle by design that my wife and I created to give them the opportunity and ourselves to be able to pour back more into our community and our homeschool co-ops and other things that we do. The aspect of trust is something that is gained through exercise. It is not earned through a simple conversation. Trust is something that you see and you feel and you know somewhat instinctively. You just have to kind of trust your gut. And then you have to take a leap of faith to trust somebody. I have to do the same thing with others as well in our life and say, you know what, at the end of the day, ultimately, if I trust them and they failed me, it's not on me. And I should not take that on as a failure. It is their failure to deliver. So I always want people to be very careful about who they trust and how they trust, to be cautious and do their due diligence. But ultimately, at some point, you're going to have to trust your gut because you're going to have to just make that leap and decide whether or not you do it or don't do it. So at the end of the day, trust is an earned behavior, and you'll have to see the reciprocal aspect of that trust in time.
Fantastic. The last one is operational excellence. I know that we didn't touch on every system and process that you do, but can you give us two or three highlights of what, tools you're using within the business model over the last few years that really have accelerated growth?
Well, I've gotten out of major systems and built my own because I couldn't figure out, how to connect all the different ones to get the data that I wanted. So we hired a development team and went to work on building our own system out of our spreadsheets and processes and methodologies we created to combine that together. We started to piece it together into our Greenlight dashboard tool set that we're about to name soon. So I don't actually have a name for it because it's not public, as I mentioned earlier. And we're going to make it public soon, and we'll tell you everybody what the name of it is. But we
Green.
built that. Yeah, well, the green light process for sure is the methodology, and the tool itself has different tools within it that we developed. A scanner tool that tells you exactly where the customer needs at, the node hunter that tells you exactly where to place that need inside Amazon's digital warehouse, and then an ASIN finder tool that shows you exactly which products to put inside of that framework once you've identified the need and the node. You put the product inside of it and watch the magic happen because the data is exactly in alignment. We use automation tools. That's why we called it the almost automated income with FBA. So we use Amazon's automation system. It's $20 billion infrastructure. They're about to dump another few $1 billion into AI this year to help move products to market and grab that demand. We use PPC, pay-per-click automation tools specifically for Amazon and even on Meta and stuff to help us determine customer segments, avatar, and the digital side of the market. We use logistic tracking software that helps us move product from manufacturing and just in time into third party or Amazon's warehouses and upstream warehouses. That gives us blinky lights and dashboards to kind of manage metrics. It's created a situation where I can have an operator run three multi seven-figure companies a week with one operator. So if you're worried I can run one, I'm going to teach you a process by which you could run multiple companies using systems and dashboards. You don't have to move the products. You don't have to go to a warehouse. You don't have to get them out of your garage. The systems and logistics now can all be managed through these automation and tools. And we have a number of other ones we can go on, but it's literally all around e-commerce and automation of e-commerce processes and tasks to allow one operator to become a unicorn over time.
Hmm. That's a mouthful and a lot of great knowledge there. So, Neil, we love that you came on the Go for CEO community. You were booked on here. You're actually blazing the trail of podcasts, and the information that you're sending out there is really going to come back, 10 times, right, of the value that you've been able to put out there. So it's pretty awesome stuff.
Thank
What's the best way to get a hold of you? The main website if people are curious about
you.
teaming up and going into business with your firm and what you guys do?
So voltagedm.com is the main one. But when you get on there, you're going to meet Lennon or myself. It's very hyper connected. You'll end up text messaging with us. We have a personalized communication because I don't have a massive process. I don't have a course. I don't have that kind of stuff. You will apply to work with the Voltage community. You will meet with me and we'll find out if you're a good fit. At the end of the day, I don't take anybody in who I feel is going to lose one of the four factors of the business model: time, energy, attention, or money. And I don't want people to mistakenly misunderstand the opportunity. So we go through that process, and each person applies to become one of the builders with us. We take maybe 5 to 7 people a month if we find them are qualified, or what, sometimes we don't find people because it's just an understanding of the business and the model that's working there. And so when you go that, you'll talk to me personally, and we'll find out if it's a good fit.
Awesome, awesome stuff. Well, hey, Go for SEO community, again, free book. This is a rare opportunity. We don't do a lot of freebies on the channel here, but Neil was gracious enough to share voltagedm.com/free book and put the code Go for SEO. Neil, thanks so much for coming on. I think I have a possible candidate for you, my wife, who's been
Awesome.
we'll see if she makes the challenge of getting into the voltage system.
Awesome. Love to
She's
talk with
actually
her.
been looking at stuff. So, but thanks so much for coming on. Any last words that you want to share as far as inspiration or things that you think?
I think that most of the time people discover that the limitations they have in the idea of business is really a limitation on themselves and not the actual business opportunity. If they could break through that, they can get past the challenges and issues they may have in their mind. They can find a going concern in any kind of business model, whether it's e-commerce or real estate or anything else at the end of the day. What I want people just to be very cognizant of is your opportunity begins at the end of your excuses. And if you continue to make excuses, you'll have no imperfect action because you'll never try at all. And that means you have failed from the very beginning. So it's best to fail in the process than never start at all.
Boom. I wish I had a little mic drop on that one. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank you,
being
John.
on.
Appreciate it.